obviously Eminem won Scribble Jam as well, and you've
He
done it
didn't.
twice.
He
Oh, he
didn't.
didn't? I thought he did.
No, he lost to Juice.
Oh shit. I'm a retard.
Yeah, he lost to Juice, but that like created a lot of momentum for him. And then he went to the Rap Olympics,
Oh yeah.
and that's where like Dre, I guess, founded him. But he didn't even win the Rap Olympics. He actually lost to a dude named Otherwise, who I ended up like serving in 2005 when I was on my come up.
I didn't know that D12 had a member that was female. Oh God, I guess you better just get off the stage.
And like people were sort of really starting to find out about me and shit. There was an event called Mind Games in San Jose. And this was actually the first time me and Ilmac partnered up as a team together too. And there was a one-on-one battle and then a one-on-one tournament, 2-on-2 tournament. And I ended up making the finals and losing against Franco, but I battled Otherwise in the final four and like he was crushing the whole day. And when I got to battle him, I was like, oh shit, this is like the dude that beat M. This is kind of a big deal, you know what I'm saying? And then like crew members of his are on the judging panel and shit, and I just went crazy. And I like tapped out myself before I could battle Franco, and then Franco just went nuts in the finals.
All right, so I'm glad you brought that up, because anytime there's like any sort of on-stage performance, whether it's battle rap or comedy or anything like that, you hear a lot of the time that you have to experience some sort of like just bumming it out on stage or getting booed off stage or
yeah, for sure. It's
bombing, right?
Definitely makes you stronger.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you about. Is like, do you feel like everybody has to kind of go through that or take that tough loss? Because I mean, look what Eminem's done with his career since then. Maybe that might have been the straw that broke the camel's back, right?
It gives you thicker skin for sure, and it just kind of teaches you. It's humbling. It teaches you that what you do is not always going to please 100% of the people, but that's fine. And then you just need to either figure out if that's like a problem with something you're doing as an artist, or there's just some people who you can't please for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? So you want to make adjustments. You take the constructive shit seriously, and then the hater shit you just kind of brush aside. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But like having any time I've ever to myself felt like I lost a battle, I came back to the next one, even especially in the written era, and just like smashed shit, because I take everything that's being said, especially from the opinions I value, and then just making like the necessary adjustments. And we should all be like, especially as artists, constantly trying to evolve, never always trying to be exactly like what we were when we started. Like, yeah, stay true to yourself, but you should still constantly be like improving and updating. I always say it's kind of like a software update. You know what I'm saying? Like my style has always stayed very true to self. It's very clear, like the style that I created and have fucked with for the majority of my career. But I've constantly maintained like a software update as times have evolved. Shit's getting more punch heavy. Writing is getting a lot more dense and layered, and people are just getting better now. Like the talent pool is so deep now that the general bar is a lot higher than it used to be. You can't get away with fucking 3-bar setups to one punchline anymore, like standard Charlie Clip style type of shit. And even shit that I used to get away with in fucking 2009, 2010, because our ear was trained differently before then. You know, it was like a big deal in the freestyle era to have 2 big punchlines in a 30-second round. That was like a big deal. Now it should be like your setup should be almost as good as the payoff line for most of your shit. That's because you have the time to create it, and just a lot more room to do it. But definitely bombing, it's either going to make you tougher, or it's going to let you know that you're not cut out for what you thought you were, you know?
Speaking of the style you created, let's emphasize that, because you did bring in more layers to the whole.
I think Lush had like a really good description of it in the Fresh Coast DVD documentary. And
there was an evolution. What I saw when Thesaurus and cats like that started a very specific multi-layered comparison disses. Take like an extra rhyme and put it in there, and it was like consistently with every single bar. A clear evolution and with a relevance and sophistication of disses and certain manner of putting words together, which was previously unseen.
I like added, it was at the time people were saying like the gist of it, especially in the freestyle era, was like, you look like if so-and-so was addicted to this or something like that. And then what I did was added like a rhyming layer to the specific name or person I was referring to or something like that. And then sort of built off of that and was obviously like multi-stacking a ton, you know what I'm saying? And like made that shit, we popularized that just from the WRC. Once people figured out it was a winning formula at the time, they were like, okay, well, I'm going to take that and run with it. You know?
What made you come up with that? Because you were hitting people twice as many times as they were hitting you because of that.
I was always like that. The way I the first verse I ever sat down and wrote in my life was, I was probably 18, maybe 19, something like that. I was in my grandma's kitchen. I lived at my grandma's house at the time. I was in my grandma's kitchen, just chilling, super lit, like 1 a.m. And I had been listening to this song from a crew. It was Blackalicious and then Lyrics Born and Latif, old school group from the Bay, the Quantum Collective and shit. Blackalicious is pretty well known though. The Gift of Gab, he has like the Alphabet song and shit. But they had this song called Deep in the Jungle, and Gift of Gab's verse was like the craziest thing I had ever heard. And this is like, I mean, this shit came out in probably 96. And I heard it for the first time in like 98. But the syllables and shit that he was using had just absolutely blew my mind.
Gifted when I'm lifted off a split hit, reminiscent, riff with dipshits. This shit is a misfit style that's a gifted. I'm a whiz kid, get a whiff kid.
To the point of where I was like, I want to duplicate that, but with like my own words, you know what I'm saying? So I basically like sat down and wrote a verse that was like rhythmically and syllabically matching what he did, but with just my own verse. And I sort of kept it to myself for a while. I was like, I don't know if I want to show the other people I know who I like look up to who rap, because I don't know if this is corny, if I'm like biting, or if I'm like, I think what I'm doing is cool because I'm trying to figure out the science of the syllabics and shit,
Dissecting
you know?
it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't want to like be seen as like corny or a biter by these dudes I looked up to. So I like kept it to myself low key for a minute. And then we were at like a house party and like my boy had his turntables there and they put on the instrumental for that song.
No fucking way.
And I was like, and everybody at the party is like struggling to freestyle over it because it's like a unique time signature for the beat. And then I'm just like, yo, I have something for this beat. Like, let me fuck with it. And just slayed it, like 32 bars, slayed shit. Fucking, and I was like, yo, I think I'm kind of like onto something here. Nobody's really doing shit like this. And then I got really into that. And then I heard Crooked Eye, and that like turned a corner for me too. Once I heard the freestyle shit he did, or not freestyle, but the verse he did on the Wake Up Show. And this is like 2000 with Chino Excel, maybe even early. It might have even been 99 because I graduated high school in 99. I was probably in high school when he spit it. But I mean, this is over 20 years old, and he was on some like, I spit impossible rhymes full of philosophical lines. My phenomenal
shine. I leave every one of your opticals blind. Run you over when it's apocalypse time. I'm half
man, half diesel, like Optimus Prime. I was like, what is he doing, bruh? He goes, I'm so ominous and dominant. Any prominent hip hop conglomerate on this continent, I'm bombing it. With crooked eyes, they better be able to dodge bullets like the Matrix or Take 6. And I was like, what on earth? Who is this guy? So I like became obsessed with that type of shit and was just kind of sort of, you know, adding my own flair to it. And once I figured out how to freestyle like at that level, there was no one who was doing anything like that, at least not as like mechanical. No Can Do was like an insane tier one, probably the best freestyler I've ever heard in my entire life.
You ain't hard to hit, you just bought the hip-hop starter kit. You ain't started shit, you want to get those shit liver. Step you with a screwdriver, nigga who fiber. The camera was laughing at you, you were standing statue. You little fake freestyle in your black flannel rap suit. You ain't gonna win this shit. Every time I'm ripping it, stop your goddamn mic cause you ain't really gripping it. That's the force, rap the force. MC I do a whack the course. MC's a rock
but it's like it wasn't as like mechanical as my shit was, as far as he could do crazy multi-syllabic shit. Same with awkwards for sure. And those were people that I sort of like was a sponge, but like absorbing was sort of what they did. And then it was all about just kind of adding my own spin on it. And then once I like won something, then people were just like, fuck, adding your own spin. We're just going to do exactly what
So Crook, I'm glad you brought up Crook. It's like he was probably a death row rapper at the time too. Like you're not hearing
this was
those type of bars.
This was even before he got his death row deal. Yeah, because I remember being surprised when he signed to Death Row, but this was when he did the Wake Up Show shit with Tino XL, and then he dropped a song for like a Wake Up Show mixtape called Murdering MCs. And the song, even to this day, the bars on the song, I mean, the song's 24 years old or some shit. The bars are fucking out of this world. And that's just always how Crook's been. And like I heavily fucked with that shit. Him, even Royce, I was always like, Royce is my favorite rapper of all time. And I think I was like, I always leaned more partial even towards him when he was on the early Bad Meets Evil shit, fucking with M. I was like, yo, this dude is out rhyming M on this song and we're not even talking about it. And, you know, all of my other friends in my hometown are like, no, you're crazy. M's rapping about diseased needles and shit. Yeah, and here we are, and he's still doing that at 54.
Scary Movies is still one of my favorite fucking songs of all time.
Yeah, that shit is tight, man.
It's timeless. Why doesn't, a quick question before we move on, that's rap in like its purest form, right? Why do songs like that don't get as much play, or they're not as popular? Like Crooked Eye's not as popular as all these guys here now.
It's tough for like, I mean, the general listening public isn't. The general listening public definitely isn't as smart as they think they are, let alone as smart as like the median who's gonna tune into some shit like that. Some people like, I mean, a lot of people listen to music for different reasons too. Some people don't want to listen to music to overthink, rewind, and like run verses back. Some people want to listen to relax and unwind and not have to think twice about what they're hearing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I can dig that. There's a lot of music I listen to for the same reason. But I mean, there's just like, as when it comes to like most of the rap shit I listen to, it's mostly people who like inspire me at least to a degree as like a writer in some capacity. And I think these days, like there's a wave of that that's coming back strong. Like you have real lyricists now that are getting much more recognition as recording artists than they were even 5 years ago. Guys like Royce, who are like having award-winning albums now, and fucking, you know, like Griselda, dudes like that who are just, you know, taking over and crushing, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, Benny is fucking incredible. Spesh, I've been up on 38 Spesh for like probably like 5 or 6 years now, and man, like what those dudes are doing is just incredible. Like Black Thought, guys like that too. Man. So I think there's starting to be a bigger lane for that, and like a larger audience that's receptive to it. But it is still a lot for like the general consumer to digest and process. That's not a negative, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So that shit must be true, because like when my friends, I think they listen to it for a different reason than I do, because I always know that, because they're like, yo, I'm going to put on this song, but listen to the words. It's like, what the fuck else are you listening to? Like, of course I'm going to listen to the words.
For real.
Go ahead, Mark.
All right. So I don't know if it was an interview I saw or some kind of video. It was Clean Paper talking about one of his previous battles like a few years ago. And he was talking about some of the battles that he prefers to go against based on their style. And he was talking about, you know, he's one of the URL rappers, bunch of gun bars, street shit, whatever. So he's talking about, I think it was a battle with Twerk, and it was a lot of the similar things. So he said that because it was a battle more similar to him, that it kind of played against him because it just came down to crowd preference. And he would prefer to battle somebody that has a completely different style, like, I don't know, say like a Charlie Clips, where it's set up punchline.
Word.
In your case, I mean, you're one of the more versatile and unique guys out there, but if there was a guy in the battle rap scene that was more similar to your style, would you rather battle him than, say, a Clean or a Twerk, who was more gun bars and just way different?
I mean,
Loaded question, I know.
I don't really have like a preference, to be honest. I'm more about like, I like at this point, I like for the matchup to make sense to whatever degree it is, whether it be like I have some history going back and forth with the person, or there was like a call out in a prior battle or something like that.
Right.
Or even if it's just someone who it like makes sense for me to battle at this point. I mean, I like battling people who don't necessarily have like a style that I know that I influenced, because I think it's harder for me. I think it's like easier for me to beat people, at least, or prepare for people who I know I have like directly influenced the way that they present their shit today. You know what I'm
Makes
saying?
sense. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like when I battle like the newer wave of dudes who I know came up watching my battles and who have like openly told me that. And I don't, I appreciate it to the fullest, but
Yeah.
I definitely feel like I feel like I have an edge going against people like that, because it's easy for me to make the point of like, yo, well, I gave you this blueprint. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
of course you should be standing here.
I
I
fathered
gave
this
you
whole
this.
scene.
Yeah,
And as far as my kid, you don't even know what you're talking about. My daughter's living like a queen. Why would you question my parenting, faggot? I fathered this entire scene.
It's probably harder to battle people with a different style, but I feel like I'm like super direct in every battle that I do. Like anything I write, I can't just, if a battle gets canceled, I can't be like, well, I can just use these for this battle.
No.
I'm way too opponent specific. So I think that's always like the fun part of the challenge for me, is like figuring out how to be opponent specific in ways that like the people prior to me hadn't been able to do against this person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And at this point in your career, you got nothing left to prove in that sense.
Yeah, I actually saw a really dope quote from Steph Curry today that was like, I don't have a lot. He's like, I got nothing to prove, but I got a lot left to accomplish.
Yeah.
And I fuck with that so
That's
heavy,
heavy, bro.
because I don't feel like I have anything to prove whatsoever. But there's still things on my personal list that I would still like to get done, or like still, goals that I would like to reach before I'm finally over it, and before I figure out like how I want to, like what I want the next step to be once I stop actively battling,
Thanks for watching. Since you're here, why not take the time to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell. Also check out Brush Crew on Spotify, Spreaker, TikTok, and Instagram. And that's all I got.